let's face it, suffering is quite a large part of cycling. You can do it without it, but you wouldn't go very far, very fast, or in fact get any better at it. Greg LeMond put it very well when he said that no matter how fit you get in cycling, it always hurts. You just go faster.
But suffering is something you can improve on. Some people have the ability to suffer and go very, very deep, while others just don't have it quite the same. So here's our top tips on how to improve your ability to suffer and therefore go faster, further and longer.
Staying on that wheel in front of you plays a major part in a lot of things to do with cycling on the road. Lose it and you'll quickly find that your group ride or race can be over in an instant, but it's also a great place on which to focus your mind. Concentrate on the wheel and you'll find that you're not thinking about other things such as perhaps the pain in your legs. Just stick to it. Do bear in mind though, that you still need to look at where you're going. Simply looking at the wheel in front of you and nothing else is a surefire way of falling off.
For some people though, getting all introspective and focused just isn't the right approach. Now, distracting yourself from the moment is actually a good way of improving your ability to suffer. Now, this technique is particularly useful when you're not necessarily going hard, more having to endure really severe weather conditions, the pouring rain, the freezing cold, or that last 10 miles home into a block headwind. Try and think of something else to take your mind off the job at hand. Could be a nice hot bath, a steaming cup of hot chocolate. And I've even heard of some people actually counting their own pedal revolutions. Just try and see what works best for you. 1, 2, 3.
Have you ever noticed that when you're the one dishing out suffering to a group, that you never really notice how hard you're trying? But on the flip side, if you're the one that's having pain dished out to you, the same intensity will seem so much worse. Well, we think there's a distinction between good pain and bad pain, and that actually you can influence how you respond to it just by a bit of positive thinking. So instead of focusing on how much something's hurting, why not instead think about how fast you're going, or how far you've gone, or how much you're making everyone else suffer.
Doesn't matter what you call it, mental imagery, meditation or visualization as we called it in this video. It's a great tool to help you mentally prepare for something which could possibly hurt. Now, that could be a training session or race, but we personally find it very useful before we head out on a high intensity interval training session where we've really got to hurt ourselves. Now, you can go about this one of two ways. You can either think back to a previous race or similar training session where you've really nailed it, or you can simply imagine yourself perfectly accomplishing the goals that you've set out to achieve.
If you're lucky enough to have a power meter, or you just really enjoy looking at your ride data on your Garmin, it can sometimes get easy to fixate on the numbers. And even the very best riders in the world have days where the numbers just aren't telling them what they want to read. So in those instances, you just have to block it out, because actually having a reminder, a negative reminder of the suffering that you're going through, can actually impact on your ability to suffer. So simply block out the negatives.
If your training sessions aren't considered and thought through, it's all too easy to avoid the most difficult part of cycling, and that's going hard and suffering. If you want to improve your endurance and your ability to go fast, there aren't really any shortcuts. So be disciplined and plan ahead. Know what you're doing and stick to it. In other words, plan your suffering.
It's easy for frustration to take its toll when you're out on a hard ride. It might be that your legs are really hurting, it's a really hilly route, or it might be that you're faced with a 50k slog into a headwind just to get yourself home. But don't let the elements defeat you. Instead, try to think of them from a positive point of view and how they might be benefiting you. So every turn on the front, into the wind on a group ride, every sprint you do over the crest of a climb, they're all credits going into your suffer bank that you can use at a later date.
You can't be expected to suffer in a sportif or a race if you don't suffer out in training. So it's important that you practice it. Now, if you find it hard to push yourself and suffer whilst training on your own, try and join up with a group of riders that are stronger than you, and that way they'll push you quite frequently to your limits. So much so that if you do it right, when you actually get to your event, it could be somewhat easier than you thought.
If you're riding in a group, particularly a group of similar abilities to yourself, then you always have to remember that other people are going to be suffering as well. And in fact, better than remembering, why not actually go and look at their faces? You can see the suffering etched in it, or in fact you can just laugh at their poker face as they're trying to hide it. And I can guarantee that other people suffering around you will lower your own sense of pain. And incredibly as well, it'll also give you a renewed incentive to just hang on that little bit further.
Suffering takes its toll. We all have a limit to how much we can tolerate, so vitally important that sometimes you take a bit of a break and give yourself a chance to recharge those batteries. It could be after a particularly difficult training phase or a big event. So take a break, refocus, get your mind refreshed so you can get back to suffering as soon as possible. So guys, ready for some more? No, more suffering. Come on, time to roll.
One more time, doesn't really matter what we call it, meditation, mental imagery, or visualisation.
Sneaky, you were waiting for me to fall off, weren't you?